Welcome to Carting Truth Podcast, a father-daughter duo focusing on sharing revelations through conversations with the Lord. Let's get started with today's episode. Hello, and welcome to Carting Truth Podcast. My name is Lindsay, and I'm here with my dad, Shane, and we are talking about the Pool of Siloam today, which is infamously known in John chapter 9 as the healing of the blind man. They have since released that they are going to reopen the Pool of Siloam, but it's not what you think, really. It goes deeper than that, and I'm going to let Dad take over and let you know why.
Yeah, so I was watching a video and they had talked about that in 2004 over in Israel there was a sewer line break and they were up there cleaning up the mess, and while they were doing that they hit some hard pan surface, and so once they dug that surface out it was the steps down to the Pool of Siloam. Now they thought the pool was back up, but now they've actually found the main steps going down to it. And that was in 2004. So once they hit that, then the Israeli Antiquities Authority came in and they had to excavate it out. And they got, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 feet to where the bottom of the steps were. And the adjoining property owner, they contacted them, and the adjoining property owner said, don't touch it. Don't mess with this. So they had to stop. Well, that was 19 years ago.
Wow, yeah.
So in May of 2023, that piece of property became available. And they started excavating it with the big excavators. And they worked on it for a long time, and then they got to a point that they couldn't use the excavators anymore, and they had to start doing it by shovel, by hand. Well, so I'm watching these, I watch the videos. I'm like, okay, well, that's cool. Pool of Siloam. I remember, John chapter 9, that's the story. And then the Lord spoke to me. He said, that's a sign. And I said, what's a sign about that? That was my very question. I said it out loud too. I'm pretty sure I said it out loud. I said, what's a sign about that? So I went and read John chapter 9. And
Right.
then I had one of those moments. It just all fell into place. So before we can understand what this revelation is all about, we got to go back. We'll have to go back to chapter 9 of Daniel. Ain't this strange? It's John chapter 9, and this is actually pointing to chapter 9 of Daniel.
Yeah, I would never have linked the two together.
Now that prophecy is key to understanding where we're at during the end times and during the scope of the Bible, really. So basically I'm going to focus in on the last week, because this sign that the Pool of Siloam is connected to is that last week of Daniel. So in that last week of Daniel, basically it's in the future. Now some people said, oh, that's already took place, and it's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not.
Okay.
The Lord has made that very clear to me. It's not. It's happening in the future, and I'll be able to show you in some later episodes just how much I know that.
Okay.
But in this episode, we're just going to discuss that last week. So that last week is a 7-year week. It's based on Jacob and Leah and Rachel.
Wow. So we tied to something else.
Yeah,
that's
where it came from. That's why Jeremiah calls it the time of Jacob's trouble. Because what happened is Jacob, he was working for Rachel, and he got Leah instead.
Right.
So he worked for that 7 years, and that 7 years was a time of trouble for him because he was working for the wrong bride, basically.
Oh.
So that's why it was time of Jacob's trouble. Well, that's what this is keying in on. So that is split up in the Bible in various different places, and I'm not going to take the time to develop it, but it's basically this. There's 1,260 days from the start of it to the center, and there's 1,260 days from the center to the end. Now, Daniel tacks on another 30 days at the end of it. All right?
Okay.
Well, we won't get into what that means either, but anyway, it's happening. So you got 1,260 and 1,260. Well, this particular revelation is is dealing with the last half of that. And Jesus makes some comments, and we'll read here in a few minutes where he makes those comments that will tie us into that last half. All right?
Okay.
So basically, what's happened is the Antichrist reveals himself in the midst of that week. And when he reveals himself, then basically he has 42 months or 1,260 days to rule the whole world. And during that time, there is a deception that's going to come that will deceive the whole world. And basically, it's this. Now, I know there's a lot of scholars saying different things, but I'm telling you, I'm giving you revelation. Nobody will be saved from the center part of that week to the end. Now, to culminate that, what's happening in what Jesus will speak here in just in a few minutes, he makes a comment that don't make any sense unless you understand this point.
Right. Okay.
And that point is that the trumpet, the fourth trumpet, will blow after the 3.5 years. It'll blow at the end of the fourth year. I'm giving you a bunch of revelations right now off the top, but it will blow at the end of the fourth year. And when that happens, a third of the sun goes out. So what's happening is because on the earth during that time, the spiritual world has brought its darkness and it starts coming into our physical world and it starts manifesting in that trumpet.
Oh, wow.
So it will start getting dark after the fourth year, and it will continue to go through that process till eventually it's completely out. And that's why, look for that passage. It's Matthew,
24.
yeah, Matthew 24,
Okay.
and it is verse number 29. Matthew 24, verse number 29.
Okay. Matthew 24 and 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of heaven shall be shaken.
Right. So immediately after the tribulation, there's a complete darkness. So it starts in that middle part and then it darkens. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because Jesus will make a statement that will make any sense until you know that fact. All right? Now, we know that fact, that it is going to get dark during that time. Now, immediately after that darkness, Christ comes back to the earth. All right?
Yeah.
The day of the Lord starts. And how we know the day of the Lord starts at that time is this. Is Matthew says immediately after tribulation shall the sun be darkened, right?
Yes.
But in Joel it says before the day of the Lord the sun grows dark. So the darkening of the sun is a transition point, all right? And that transition point is after the tribulation it goes dark, before the day of the Lord it goes dark. So that's what Jesus is going to reference here in just a second, all right, about that transition.
Okay.
As I got this revelation, as I seen the fact that the pool of Siloam was coming back, and I knew that this operation will take place, he said that that was a sign. And I was like, what is the sign? Well, the sign is this, that pool has to be back before the Jews' eyes are opened.
Mm.
That whole story in John chapter 9 is not just a story, it's a prophecy.
Oh.
Yeah, so the blind man that was born blind,
Right.
that's referencing the back to 1948 when Israel was born in a day, which was prophesied in Isaiah. I think it's Isaiah 66. I'll put that verse up.
Okay.
That the nation would be born at once.
Right.
But it was born not knowing Jesus, so it's blind. All
Right.
right.
And we're speaking of the Orthodox because we got two different
Well,
sectors.
we're speaking of. All right, so we got to clear that up too. We are grafted into Israel through the olive tree. All right.
Right.
We did not replace them; we're grafted into them. But Paul tells us that in that whole Romans discourse,
Right.
that there are a remnant of them kept the whole time, just like it was in the days of Elijah.
Right.
And Elijah was like saying, "Okay, they kill all the prophets, and now they're after me."
Mm-hmm.
God said, "No, I've reserved for myself 7,000 that haven't bent to Baal. And then Paul goes on and says, even now there's a remnant being reserved. So all the way through this time, we haven't replaced them. There's just been a remnant reserved. They are the root, and we have been grafted into their root. All right. So that's been going on all this time. He hasn't forsaken his people. He hasn't forsaken his promise. He has just kept a remnant this whole time. All right. So the time that they all see will be in the middle of this week that we were talking about. That's when their eyes for the whole nation will be opened. And that's what this revelation
Prophecy
is.
was.
That's what it is. Now, that pull has to be there before that can happen. And guess what?
They're bringing it back.
They're bringing it back. And they expect to have it completely done by 2025. All right?
Wow.
2025 is a key date. And we will go on to another podcast to show you just how key that 2025 date is. But I'm just kind of introducing it to you now.
Right.
Kind of get you built up,
the times
looking
are coming.
for us. The times are coming.
Not just a tourist attraction. It's a lot more than that.
So that pull has to be there before the nation receives this and understand. And guess what? It's coming back now. Right now, it's coming back. So what I want to do now is to go into John chapter 9.
Okay. John chapter 9, 1 through 4. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, Neither hath this man sinned, nor his parents, but the works of God shall be made manifest in him.
Now here's the key statement that Jesus makes, that what I was talking about. Go ahead and read the rest of that.
Okay. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work.
All right. So from the middle of that point of that Shabuah, of that 70th week, from the time that the tribulation starts to the end, the sun's going through this darkening. That's what he's talking about. During that time, people can't get saved. All right?
Because it's already over. It's done. Like, who's going to be saved? It's done.
If you've not accepted Christ up to that point, this strong delusion will get you.
Right.
God's not going to be convicting you to get saved and send you strong delusion at the same time. His left hand would be fighting his right hand. All right?
Right.
He's not going to any wrestle himself. So, that is the drawing in the line. That's what he has shown me. That is the drawing in the line. And this is further confirming that. Now, I will show you the drawing in that line later on. But I'm giving you a little taste of it now. All right? And that's what he's talking about when he says that you have to work because there's a day coming and the darkness is coming where you can't work anymore. That's why. Because there's no reason anymore to preach the gospel at that point, because the strong delusion is coming to believe a lie. Because once the Antichrist gets power, which is in the middle, he's got power. He'll have the power. And there'll be nobody saved. Now, a lot of people saying, oh, there'll be people saved in tribulation. No, they won't.
The second half.
The tribulation is the second half. The whole thing is not tribulation.
Okay,
from
so that's another thing.
From the center part to the end is the tribulation. From the beginning of the Shabuah to the center is not tribulation. Okay, why don't you go ahead and read that verse 5 of John chapter 9.
Okay, so as long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world.
Okay, so he makes that comment. So he first made the comment about the darkness in the day, right? Then he says, as long as I'm in the world, I am the light of the world. So when Christ comes back to the earth during the millennial, during the day of the Lord, which we had just discussed, he will be the light of the world. Why do we know that? Well, we know the sun's out. So what's going to enlighten this earth? Well, his glory is. He will become the light of the world. So he's giving us a hint right here. He's telling us right here, hey, it's going to get dark and you can't work. It's going to get dark and you can't work. And then when I come, I'm going to enlighten the world.
And it's literal. So many people have been like, yes, he's the light of the world. We understand that's Jesus. No. It's literal. He
Yes,
is the light.
that's absolutely wonderful observation. He is
Wow.
literally the light of the world. And he's telling us this because he knows that somebody's going to, going to understand. And that's why he said, hey, this is a sign to me. And when I started reading, I was like, wait a minute. You're describing the time of trouble. You're describing, oh, that's the sign. The sign is they're going to get their eyes open. And guess when it happens? When the pool comes back. Guess when the pool's coming back? Next year.
Oh my gosh.
All right?
Wow.
So why don't you go ahead and read chapter 9, verse 6?
Okay, so when he had thus spoken, he spat on the ground. He made clay of the spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with the clay. He said unto him, Go wash in the pool of Siloam, which is by interpretation sent. He went his way therefore and washed, and came seeing.
All right, so this is when their eyes are open. But remember, the pool would have to be there. And in the same way this blind man had to go to the pool to wash, Israel will have to go. Now, the pool of Siloam, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, it's a mitzvah, which is a pool of cleansing that they have to
Okay.
go. So before they can build the temple, they need this pool. All right?
Right.
It's going to be here next year.
Wow.
So there's another part of the sign. Part of the sign is they will have their eyes open. The other part is you need this pool before the temple. So the temple is coming close. All right? Both
Mm-hmm.
of those signs is right there. And that's why God said to me, it's a sign. And I didn't put it together until I started reading this. And I was like, oh, it's time. It's time, people. You're going to see during the fall of 2025 a two-state solution get agreed to. And when that
Wow.
two-state solution gets agreed to, it is the covenant that Daniel 9:27 has been telling us is coming. All right. We are getting ready for that to happen. They have to
Wow.
have that pool. You have to dip and ceremonially and physically be cleansed before you go up there to the temple. And they're doing it. It's happening right now. It is a huge sign. This is, and ain't nobody talking about it. Why? Because they don't know this revelation, and neither did I.
Right. I mean, I've seen a lot of things like CVN and things putting it out that they're opening it back. And I know people that have gone to Israel and said, Oh, I'm so excited. Next time we go, we'll be able to visit the Pool of Shalom. And I left it at that face value, like, oh, that'd be a great place to visit and say that you've been there. But it goes so much deeper than that. And, they don't even know what they're seeing and what it means, nor did I.
Yeah. Another part of this revelation is this: Jesus is the one that created Adam, because the Bible says that God didn't create anything without creating it through Jesus. So Jesus has taken spittle and made clay, the same way he formed Adam, probably. I don't know if he made a spit wad and made Adam or not, but
We know he's made
anyway.
of the
Well, that
dirt, yeah.
this is declaring he's the creator, because the Jews say that Adam was created in Jerusalem, that he was created in the Promised Land. That's where he was. That's where the uh, Garden of Eden was. All right, and so and it makes sense because the Bible does say that the Gihon River at that time, and this is the only place we have a Gihon spring is in Jerusalem. So that's making sense that this is the place. And then Jesus at this same place out of the same water takes clay and anoints this man's eyes. All right. So
Right.
they say this is where Adam was created. So he puts it on her. He is demonstrating I'm God. All right.
Yeah.
Because who can open up the eyes of a person born blind but God?
Right.
Right? Nobody else can. Why don't you continue and read John 9:14?
Okay. And it was the Sabbath day when Jesus made the clay and opened his eyes.
Okay, so the day of the Lord that we spoke of earlier is the Sabbath day of creation. And that's when they fully get their eyes open. And that also happens in the book of Zechariah, it talks about that. So when they fully get their eyes open and they recognize who Jesus is fully, but this is starting the process of it, all right? So this is what this sign is. This is when this process starting, and it goes all the way through the tribulation. They're getting their eyes open, and they find out. And that's what, but that is the Sabbath day that he did this. All right. And that Sabbath day is when he comes back. That is the Sabbath day of creation. It's the 7,000th year of creation. And that's why he makes that. So go ahead down to the bottom of there, John 6:33 through 41.
Okay.
And on that Sabbath day, this is what's going to happen to all the people. The same thing that happens to this man.
Okay.
All right.
If this man were not God, he could do nothing. They answered and said unto him, Thou wast altogether born in sin, and doest thou teach us? And they cast him out. Jesus heard that they had cast him out. And when he found him, he said unto him, Dost thou believe on the Son of God? He answered and said, Who is he, Lord, that I might believe on him? And Jesus said unto him, Thou hast both seen him, and it is he that talketh with thee. And he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshipped him. And Jesus said, For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which might see be made blind. And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto them, Are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see, therefore your sinneth remaineth.
Okay.
Good King James Version.
Yes. So what's happening here is this. In the same way that the Jews will start to see in the middle part of that, and that sign works all the way to when Christ comes back, which is the Sabbath of creation, which is the day of the Lord, which is the time he is the light of the world. All right. The blind man got to come and behold Jesus, right? He got to see him, and he asked him, Do you know who I am? And he says, No. And he says, Well, you're looking at him. You're looking at him, the Son of God.
Right.
And he says, I believe, and he worshipped him. When Jesus comes back, it says every knee will bow and every tongue will confess to the glory of God that Jesus Christ is the Lord. All right. So that story of that John chapter 9 is a story about the end. It is a sign that that's going to happen to the whole Jewish nation. And this man is representing the Jewish nation. Now, it literally happened back when Jesus was
Right,
here.
right.
And
It was
that's
one of the
what,
signs and wonders.
yeah, it's one of the signs and wonders. But he made the blinded eyes to see. But that is a prophecy. And the people of Israel will go through the same process that this man does. And guess what? The sign is, and the whole wonder is the pool of Siloam has to be there.
And they're bringing it back.
And they're bringing it back. And that's why he said to them, and I was like, whoa, it's on us. The time that I was understanding that it should happen, this pool will be ready right at that time. All right.
Wow. Yeah.
So we will go into a much deeper explanation of that time, of the timing, later on. And you'll see where I'm getting that 2025 date from.
Oh, goodness. So soon.
And I would have just not as soon unleashed this animal.
Mm-hmm.
But as I explained in that episode, why I have to do it.
Right.
All right.
Right.
I have to do it. So I'm giving you a little taste of it now. 2025 is a big year.
That is a wow, a bit of a bomb, I feel like, and I think it's going to take some time to sink in how close things are getting. As much as I don't want to believe that, it looks that way, and I know more revelations to come, and I'm glad that we kind of are chewing on this one for a little while because I know that's a big one. But there are so many more like wow factors to come in the future as he further explains this revelation wholly.
So the blind man shows up. Jesus anoints his eyes. He goes and washes in the pool of Siloam. He comes forth seeing. Before that, Jesus says, hey, there's a time coming where it's going to get dark. And then I will become the light of the world. And that's going to be on the Sabbath day. And my people are going to see me. And that just all played out because in 2004 they found where the pool of Siloam was, and we had to wait 19 years before. And I'm just on the exact. I don't. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that they got this property last year, May of
It wasn't time yet.
2023.
It wasn't time yet.
It wasn't time.
Yeah.
I mean, this is February of 2024, and so by sometime in 2025, that pool will be functioning again. And that
Right.
was the sign. That's the wonder. And it blew me away when God said, and He said this, this happened to me last May. He said,
That's a sign.
this is a sign. And that's what the sign is.
Wow.
It's about time, people.
That's amazing. Well, like I said, I'm so still like when he told me that revelation, I was, excited and like, oh my gosh, like it's coming so much closer, getting lined up sooner than I would have liked. But it is amazing how the Bible lets us know every detail of how this is going to happen, and we're waiting for it to play out, and we know the cues and when to, oh my gosh, like we know when to act and what's going to happen next. And I'm thankful that you prayed for revelations to explain these things, because I don't know that I would have assumed when I saw the pool of Siloam. I know that I didn't initially think anything of it besides, oh wow, that's cool. They're bringing the pool of
Well,
Siloam back.
I
I want
knew
to
they
visit
had to
it.
have a mitzvah to be able to do the ceremonial cleansing, but I didn't realize all that other stuff was in that chapter like that.
Right, and it's beginning so soon, I guess, too.
Yes.
Where it's like, okay, the ducks are getting in a row. God has a order that He does everything in, and oh my goodness, this was one of them. It's happening. We read about it all our lives, and it's like kind of like wow, a little bit nerve wracking, but exciting as well. We are so thankful that you hung out with us today and discussed this awesome revelation about the Pool of Siloam. Like I said, that you've probably seen if you follow Christian television or YouTube, anything like that. And it's really exciting to see, things are getting into order for what we've been waiting for. So we have way more to come. I know bits and pieces of things that fit together, and I'm excited for you all to be able to listen in with us, discuss with us, and see what the Lord is doing to let us know the signs of the times right now. So, if you are enjoying the content and would like to support our ministry, you can do so through Venmo or PayPal. Our handle is @CardingTruth, or use our QR code. We welcome your questions.
Like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. He never lets me forget that. Send us your questions. And we are just, like I said, we're happy. We pray that you be blessed and tune in next time with us. Please submit your questions to cardingtruth@gmail.com. And any comments, anything like that. We're excited for you all to share these revelations with us, and we want to know what you guys are thinking and wanting to ask as well. So be blessed, and we will see you next time.